Hello, my friends. You're in for a treat on today's show, listening to Keith and Debbie go out and take action, create success, going out, flipping houses, making money. I don't care where you're at in your investing business. If you're just getting started, if you flipped 1,000 houses, we all need positive success stories out there, listening to people fight through challenges, overcome obstacles, and going out and making money in real estate. So I hope you enjoy today's call. And even though it starts as a still screenshot, there are going to be pictures, before and after pictures in this video. So make sure to listen to the whole thing. I know you're going to get some valuable takeaways. You're going to like some of the things that Keith and Debbie have to share about their experience with this particular flip deal where they made over $30,000.
All right, guys, I am on the line with Keith and Debbie, and they are a couple of my coaching students who they're up in the Dallas, Texas market, and they came down to the beach. We hung out at the beach and went over some of their goals that they had to create in the real estate market. And here we are now. This is actually the time of this recording is, believe it or not, December 31st, New Year's Eve. And so you fast forward a few months later, and they just closed on their first flip deal, the very first flip deal. And for those of you watching at home on your computer, there will be some before and after pictures that you'll be able to see as this recording goes on. Those of you listening on only the audible version, you can check back later for those. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Keith and Debbie. You guys on the line?
Yes, we are.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Doing really, really especially well since you guys closed on your deal like we were talking before we got started. It's very inspiring for me whenever students go out and take action and create results, make a lot of money, and really just chase your dreams, chase your financial and real estate dreams and make them happen. Like, it's one of the greatest experiences for me as not only investor but as a coach to see you guys go out and take action. So, like, I'm pumped. I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited to share because I know other people are going to get inspired. And not only get inspired, but Keith, I know this is something you and I have talked about, how it is rewarding and fulfilling to help others. And I guarantee people listening to this call are going to get inspired and take action. So, like, I'm pumped about that. So, yeah, so you guys came down to the beach. We hung out at the beach and began really what I feel is the most important thing is beginning to get clear on what it is that you want to achieve and the results that you want to create. And you guys have done some real estate in the past with some rental properties and never flipped a property. You guys had the itch, I think, from the excitement that came along with it, and also from a financial point of view. So if you guys wouldn't mind to share just kind of where you guys were at mindset-wise in terms of business whenever we met over the summer, and kind of what's changed and transformed with you guys from a business perspective since the summer.
Where we were when we met, I had just finished reading your new book, and that's basically how I was introduced to you before you knew it, and that's what got me thinking more seriously about flipping. We had thought about it before. We had 4 rental properties already in work, and already rented. But we ran into a couple of brick walls just after 2008 with the banks and, financing, and like everybody else did. So we wanted to move into more of the cash accumulation mode. And I really like the idea of private lending. So your book is what got me started on that. And after talking to Debbie, we got on your website and looked around some, and finally decided I'd just write you a letter, an email, and see if we could come together and make some kind of arrangement to work with you. And so that's what we did. And I was pretty hyped about doing that and getting that started. I can't remember what month that was. August?
I think we met late July or early. I think it was late July, and we began. I began working together really in August, as we hit the ground running.
Right. Well, it just progressed from there. I'll tell you one thing: the buying and holding rental properties and doing the rehabs on rental properties and getting the managing them, managing the houses and the renters is a wholly different experience than flipping.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Flipping to me is a lot more exciting to do, and it sure is more.
Yep.
It's more demanding, and it's a whole different outlook on how you go about rehabbing the house.
Yeah, definitely.
But your model and the help that you've given me along the way just proved invaluable. There are so many things I don't even know where to start, but one of the big ones was getting the flat fee real estate broker to do our selling for us or handle that part of it. That was a huge help for us. It turned out really well.
Well,
and actually, I tried to put it out on my own, just as more or less by owner, for about a week. Never heard a peep from anybody. The first day I listed it with the flat fee company here in Dallas, Fort Worth area, it got a contract.
Yeah, what I want to take a step back. So you hit on something I want to talk about real quick, and kind of like going through the book and the process of the 7 fundamentals of a flip or of 7 fundamentals of a deal. Kind of starts with the mindset. And I remember like when we first started, and this is pretty typical of like working through some previous mindset beliefs and patterns that we all have. And so tell me, because you guys had done some rental properties, and what I like to say that rental properties are a great way to start out, but rental properties are really, in my opinion, really easy, quote unquote easy.
Right.
Easy way to get started, and but to go to the next level, so to speak, is really when you begin to flip a house, because there's a shorter window and a smaller gap for errors if you're not estimating repairs properly or not calculating your after repair value properly, or your days on the market. Those things can really hurt you when you're flipping a deal. But in a rental property, time is your friend. You've got months and years, if not decades, to catch up on, equity catching back up and market going back up, or if you overspent on repairs, you'll catch up over that in time with the equity and cash flow that you gain. But flip is very much a here and now conversation. Like, you need to be spot on. So tell me about some of the mindset challenges and obstacles that you guys had to work through to pull the trigger on this deal that you put. So you start working in August, you pulled the trigger on this deal, and you put this under contract, I believe, mid-September.
Yeah,
so talk
end
to
of
me
September.
about end of September. And so tell me some of the mindset things and thoughts that you guys had, or discussions that you had on making that shift from going from rental property investors to actually doing a flip deal.
That's kind of hard to say what because we really kind of already had the mindset, but we didn't let it emerge until, as I said, we read your book and did some research around in that area and talked to a few people around here. That's when it was more of a subtle shift than it was a change in mindset for us.
Mm-hmm.
We had always kind of considered doing it.
Okay, awesome.
I I guess the biggest steps I took was I was already in the industry. I had worked for a couple of the big hedge fund companies that were buying up rental properties here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and also in Houston area and San Antonio. And so I was familiar with the industry and the acquisition processes. And then I went to work for the Homevestors group here in Dallas and got a little more experience in that. But I couldn't really see myself staying in those positions and also doing what I'm doing. And I probably couldn't have done what I did had I stayed with them. So I resigned my position with Homevestors and went full-time into this process. And glad I did, because I worked it every day for almost 3 months. Not a day went by that I wasn't working on this deal to some extent. Even though I had a contractor in place, I still wanted to keep my project management side of it intact. So maybe I learned a lot. I mean, this going from rental, like you said, into flipping houses is sort of like going from, going into graduate school.
Yep.
A different
exactly.
ballgame.
That's a great metaphor. Yeah. All right. So that helps as well, because like some people I feel are a lot like you guys, to where some people have little knowledge about flipping houses, or they have a lot of fear about flipping houses. So I think you guys had a good amount of knowledge, and you probably had a little bit of fear.
Yes.
A healthy amount, but not unhealthy, where it's going to prevent you from taking action. And so you just maybe need a little nudge or a little guidance along the way.
Right.
So I think the next part, going down the path, is deal flow. And I know that we talked about, doing your own direct marketing for deals, or going the route that I mainly mentioned in the book, which was our main strategy at the time of writing the book, was going through wholesalers. And I know that that's ultimately how you guys found your deals. So just share a little bit about, on your experience with working with on the different wholesalers to find this deal.
Well, I got Debbie and I began going to meetings here in Dallas, meetings with different organizations. Main one was the North Texas Association of Real Estate Investors. And they're very active, and they meet somewhere every week. And we started going to them, and I also actually went and set an appointment and went and visited 2 large wholesalers here, New Western and Net Worth Realty, and introduced myself to them and met with some of the agents and just made that contact and let them know what I was looking for and what I wanted. I also went back to my old Homevestors company and talked with them and let them know the business I was in, that I am in. And through those contacts, I managed to come in contact with about 5 or 6 more wholesalers that continue to this day to send me deals. I get deals in my email every day, more than I can read in one day. Sometimes It's pretty prolific. I get a lot of deals sent to me, and the ones that I'm pretty interested in, I'll take some time and do the diligence on those. Won't go into all the details on how to do that, but through your processes that I've learned through you to check out, see if they are warrant going out and visiting the house and actually taking a look at it. That's how I found this property.
Yeah, and if I recall, you kind of went to the next level with that process also, because I know some guys they'll do the first phase, which is, reach out, make some contacts, and get on some email lists, but they don't really develop a real connection. I think that you're a little bit more active in touching base and making some phone calls and meetings with some guys to let them know that that you were serious. And so I think what happens a lot of times is there's some communication that's lost just through email, and that's what I always tell guys. It's like that's the first phase is to get on the email list and make that initial contact, but then it's really a relationship with your wholesalers and agents to bring you deals, and just establishing like a real connection and putting a face with the name or a voice with the name by reaching out and talking to them. And really, one is letting it be known that you're there to help them, meaning that you're looking for a deal and they're looking to sell deals, so you want to be the person that they call. And then two is just verifying that you can close when a deal comes. And so a lot of times people, in the world of business, it's basically everybody's very selfishly motivated, meaning like, what's in this transaction for me? And wholesalers want to sell houses, right? And so a lot of times people lose sight of that. They're like, I want a deal, I want a deal, I want a deal. And then some like, well, think about what your wholesaler wants, and they want an investor who can close a deal. So I think that you establish yourself as being a person who is highly motivated, very serious, and that you would close a deal if he brought you a deal that met your criteria. And that's what you did with this relationship, and which led to the next part, which was the financing. So let's talk about the financing a little bit and what direction you guys went for that.
Well, at first I went ahead and set myself up with a couple of hard money lenders. Got the initial paperwork done, and actually had a good line of credit available to me through one of the hard money lenders. At the time, we had a relative that contacted us actually and asked if we'd be interested in using some of their money. And very seriously, we didn't ask them; they asked us if we wanted to use it. And so, my answer was pretty quick yes. Mm-hmm. And that's how we funded the purchase of this house. Now, when I went to look at the house, there was also another couple there also looking at the house with another wholesale agent from the same company as the one I was working with. And at the time, I did not have a check in my hand, a cashier's check in my hand. Typically, they want that to be passed on to them very quickly once you decide you want to make the deal. Well, the other couple had their cashier's check, and I didn't. So even though I had already signed a 1-to-4 contract on it, I lost the deal because of that. Not having that with me, another lesson learned. Mm-hmm. But since I had the private funding available to me right then, my agent asked me if I wanted to make a backup offer in case something went wrong with the first couple's offer, and lo and behold, that's what happened. I made the backup offer on it. The first couple did not make closing, so they came to me. The company came to me asked me if I could close on it. I said, yes, I can. But I was already looking at another house from another wholesale company nearby that was $3,000 less than this house was being offered for. Mm-hmm. I said, well, to my agent, I said, I can do that, but why would I want to? I've got basically the same house in a different location for $3,000 less. Tell you what, I'll offer you the same thing I'm offering them. And they didn't like it, but they took it. Mm-hmm. So I got the house $3,000 off what the wholesaler was asking for, but I told them I could close in a couple of days on it.
Yeah.
So they took me up on that offer.
Awesome.
And
so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just that's part of that action. You got to continually be on top and stay in real close communication with people, and you can, anybody can pull deals off like that. It's not always what the prices offer. You can also negotiate some with the wholesalers.
Absolutely, you can. And so some people in the grand scheme of things thinking $3,000 isn't a big deal on one particular deal, although it's nice. But if you add that up collectively, because there's always some money that you can save on every deal, either on negotiations on the buying, negotiations on the selling, on what you're going, what concessions that you're going to give, what repairs that you're going to do, things throughout the rehab that you're going to do or not do, or ways that you can save money. And those $3,000, $2,000, $5,000, all that adds up collectively with you if you do 5 properties a year, 10 properties, or 20 properties, and you add up saving $2,000 to $5,000 per deal just on little things in negotiations and concessions and repairs, and that adds up to actually really, really, really big dollars at the end of the day. And then so another thing I wanted to talk about real quick was, whenever we're working with a wholesaler, it's all about show me the money. Is all about show me the money. And so
right.
And it's all business a lot of times, where it comes down to like who has that money, who has the check ready, and is ready to sign a contract right now, and not always in 10 minutes from now, but like right now, because sometimes there's deals and there's multiple buyers there. So this is another reason why I feel like real estate is really a relationship game more than anything else. It's relationships with the people who bring you deals. It's relationships with your private lenders, relationships with your contractors, your title companies, your attorneys. And it's all about how well you can manage those relationships and effectively get what it is that you're trying to get accomplished through to those relationships. And I remember there was one particular wholesaler I was buying a lot of houses from, and we ran into a similar situation like that where we almost lost a deal because we didn't have earnest money. And I was like, dude, you know how many houses like I've bought from you? And he's like, I know, man. It's like my boss. I'm like, well, let's go talk to the boss. So with that particular company, we actually just gave them a check to keep locked up at their office, and we had it there just like whenever we're ready to buy our house, you have a check there, that we're good for it. But so I know that's not really feasible for everybody, just leave a wholesaler check, and nor do I advise that. We just had a really good relationship with this company. But what you can do is something that we do just by communicating with guys. Like, one is, that's a great question to ask, is sometimes they have showings that are set up with just you, and you know that you'll have time to make a decision. And sometimes there'll be multiple buyers at that showing, so that's a good question to ask so you can be prepared. And then another thing I'll verbally try to tie up a property a lot of times before I've ever seen it with a wholesaler or with an agent, and say, for example, they've emailed me a deal and I like the numbers. The numbers look good in terms of the purchase price, repairs, after repair value, and I think it's a legitimate deal. So what I'll do is I'll get on the phone with whoever sent me that deal and try to get a commitment from them, because I found that most people I do business with, for the most part, will honor their word. And so I feel like if I can get a commitment from them, I got a good chance at locking up this property if I want it. So what I'll do is I'll have a conversation that goes somewhat like, hey, like, got your email, took a look at this deal. The numbers to me look really, really good. I'd like to go see it if we could set up a time. And I'll tell you what, man, like, if your numbers are good, and so by saying if your numbers are good, I kind of put the onus on them to make sure that I'm working with good numbers, because if the numbers aren't good, I'm not going to move forward with the deal. But I'll say, if your numbers are good, man, if I can verify the rehab estimate, I've already taken a look. I know the sales price and what the comps are. But if your numbers are good in terms of the rehab, if they're even close, I'd like to go ahead and lock that deal up. Can you would you be able to hold that for me until we look at it? And if I'm good with it, I'll get you a check right away. And usually they'll say, yeah, I can hold it. And sometimes they don't. And they're usually honest with, it's like, man, I can't. There's some other agents on it that are out showing it, or my boss won't let me do that. I'm like, okay, cool. At least I know. At least I know that. Maybe I want to go ahead and get a cashier's check and bring it there just in case. It's a little bit of effort, but if I lose out on the deal, then I've lost the deal, and I don't like that if I really like the deal. And then so we go to meet, and if the numbers are good, guess what? I'll get them a check. I'll sign the contract, move on with the deal. If the numbers aren't good, guess what? I don't move on the deal, but I haven't lost any face because these were their numbers, and I'll, usually spend a little time to educate them, like, hey, you said $40,000 in repairs, but I can see this looks more like $60,000, which sometimes happens. And so, but it really, the bottom line is, like, it's relationships, and you did that successfully because they called you whenever about putting that backup offer, and you got the deal locked up, and you mentioned financed it with private money. So you guys closed it with private money and not much time at all, and then then it was time for the scariest part, which was the rehab phase. And so, this is the scariest part for a lot of people. Probably not for you, but this, like, a lot of people, this is probably the scariest phase. And to be honest, like, I think that's legitimate concern for a lot of people, because dealing with contractors and dealing with construction is not everyone's forte, and it's not something that they're experienced with, and it's where a lot of deals go wrong. So talk to us about that whole experience and how you handled it and what you did or didn't do personally, because I know we talked about putting down the paintbrush. So talk to everyone about your experience on the rehab phase.
Hold on a second. Oh, yeah. The underestimating the cost of rehab was and is a big concern of mine. I learned so much on this house about what not to do and what to do next time. But getting involved, I was fortunate enough to have worked in the industry, as I said, in the rental property industry and property management and so forth. So I had good experience working with contractors, plus on the 4 houses that we did ourselves. So that wasn't that big of a hump to me, as it was understanding everything that had to be done on a flip house, when you're actually going to shoot for the high end of the comps, and that was pretty scary for a while, walking through this house that had been basically gutted following the demo stages. And, we filled up a 30-yard dumpster in the front yard in about 2 days, with everything from the bathtubs and sinks and, plumbing ripped out to flooring. And once it began, we started seeing things that we had not expected. Now, as I said, I was fortunate. I have a contractor that I used that I had met through one of my previous jobs that I trusted, and that was a huge plus for me. I didn't have to be there watching him every minute, and he would look after. He acted as my general contractor when I wasn't there, project manager. So it turned out well. Things that I ran across were mainly, my experience level was with rental properties, not with flipping houses. So that's where my challenges were. I had to understand that, well, you can't approach them the same way.
Yep.
And
different mindset.
So therefore, my estimates were lower than they should have been. That won't happen again. And we had a lot of unexpected things that came up. This house was built in 1965, so there were a lot of things involved that I wouldn't have expected. Like the kitchen floor was, once we ripped the tile up, or the linoleum up, it was totally rotten all the way down to the subfloor from being wet for what looked like years.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that had to be completely renovated out, and new flooring put down, subflooring. There were a lot of little things like that happened. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, and the HVAC replacement. Many of the things that I did according to your rehab guidelines and schedule. Had I not done that, it would have been even worse than it was. But not having experience of knowing what to expect beforehand, it kind of hurt me. But we built in enough contingency to handle some of this. I had heard a contractor in one of the meetup meetings that I had gone to talk about the big five and making sure you put a $5,000 estimate in on each one of them, meaning the HVAC, the roof, foundation, electrical, and plumbing. And I had actually done that for the HVAC, so I was more or less prepared for that. But there were some other things that popped up. I don't know if you want to know the exact things I'm talking about, or if we want to get to that level.
No, this is good. I mean, this is just a good overview, and I know we talked about, about game planning your rehab, and I think, there's a couple of things that I want to share with everyone is, so a lot of people get scared off with estimating, repairs and the exact repairs, and so there's a rule that we say it's better to be comprehensive than it is to be accurate. And then so like we always talk about, I talk about the big three, which is always making sure that you have at least a ballpark, preferably a close ballpark on what your roof, foundation, and AC are going to be like. Those are some of the big three things, and those are also somewhat, somewhat tricky for people to calculate at first and when they're first getting into business. And then you look at the other big, quote-unquote, big items, plumbing, electrical, if you've got to replace a lot of concrete. But that's a good rule, is just to be comprehensive, to make sure, like, I know we're going to have to do something here, you can call around to some contractors, some other investors, or you can Google search a lot of things to get a ballpark, say, hey, I think this is going to be what it's in this range whenever we get into the rehab. And this is more so when you're doing the analysis part of the rehab. And then you go into, there's two phases of estimating repairs. And one is that first analysis phase where you're estimating whether or not this is a deal, trying to make a decision. And then you move to the second phase, which is where, I'm under contract. We're going to close on this thing. Now I need detailed pricing, and you just do that by getting bids. But I want to take an even step further back and say that, yes, you had some things happen and things that come up on your rehab, which happens almost every single rehab that we do. There's some things unanticipated things that we have to fix. And some unanticipated things that happen, they just do. And we haven't found a way to completely eliminate all things other than some of the gut jobs that we're doing, which we're pretty much building brand new homes, so we really do factor in everything. But that being said, you set yourself up for success a couple of phases earlier on your deal flow and your analysis, meaning you said no to a lot of deals before you said yes to one.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah, and so that was why you had given yourself enough cushion. There was enough meat on the bone to where if a couple of these things happen, which like the HVAC, like maybe appearances, like maybe it's okay, but then you fire that thing up and you realize this thing is not going to be able to, stay. Like, we're going to have to replace it. But so that's what I talk about. Like, if you go through the 7 fundamentals of a flip, if you do each phase properly, and you use, like in my law enforcement days and my police academy on the wall, common sense and good judgment, if you use common sense and good judgment in each fundamental, like actually flipping the deal at the end is the easiest part. And during your rehab, you had some overages, but you had set yourself up to where you, like I said, you had some meat on the bone. In case you had to use it, you could. You don't want to. We always want to make more money, but sometimes that's just what we have to do. And so, anyways, so let's talk about that, because, like I said, you went through each phase, like preparing the mindset. You created the deal flow, and you started evaluating a lot of deals, saying no to a lot, waiting for the best deal for you, and did that, and estimated the repairs, and got the private money together, and went into the rehab with a good plan. And I know that we talked about that a lot and game planned a lot, and you went to a very similar approach with us, which was, you don't need to recreate the wheel here. Like, we copy what new construction does. We copy what the comps in that neighborhood are doing for the most part, which requires a lot of beige paint, neutral colors, and some granite countertops and brushed nickel lights and fixtures on this price point of your home. And you did that. You carried it out, and I think you were anticipating, your contractor was telling you a 30 to 40 day time frame, but I think it took about 2 months.
It took about 7 weeks, really, for the full rehab to be done. There were some odds and ends left after the final punch, but the majority of the rehab was finished in 7 weeks. Initially we had shot for 6 weeks.
Yep. So that wasn't bad at all. I was thinking it was a little bit shorter time frame that y'all shot for. That's not bad to do close to, I guess, 40,000 in repairs.
A little over 40.
40,000 in repairs in 7 weeks is not too bad.
Well, we had several repairs that were buyer requested repairs after the fact due to his inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Those were unexpected repairs,
Yeah, and that was done after you're under contract.
Yes.
But just the initial rehab went, and then you listed. Okay, so you got a sign for sale by owner, put that out for a little bit, and then so we talked about. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers. I don't know if we've done that yet. What was let's fill them in on the purchase price again.
102.
Okay, that's right. $102,000. You bought it for $102,000. Was told by your wholesaler that it was going to be around $30,000 in repairs.
Yeah. They were estimating even lower than that, 25.
Yeah.
And when I walked through the house, I right away I knew it wasn't going to be more than that. And we came up with about $33,000.
That's the bid you and I came up with, right? Before, like the general rough estimate, and then so you ended up replacing the AC and some of the flooring and stuff they weren't planning. So you came out. All right, so purchase price 102 came out on your rehab in the low 40s. Was it around 40?
Yeah, no, it was about mid-40s, about 45. All said and done when I add in the buyer requested repairs.
Okay, after all that was said and done, is that utilities and everything, or just construction costs?
Yes, that's everything, including the for sale sign that I bought at Elliott's Hardware.
All right.
$5.
All right. All right. So that was everything. So I put you at 147, and then you listed it for 189, correct?
189.9 actually.
Okay. So then you listed it with I think someone who was an agent previously and went back to being an agent, and this was granted right before the Thanksgiving holiday, so you didn't get any showings. I don't think even any calls for a week or so. Is that correct?
No, I didn't get anything for a week. That was actually a commercial broker that is starting to take on some residential work, and that just was not working. Most likely because even though it was on MLS, the agents that get an indication that it just might be a for sale by owner really won't spend their time showing it because they don't think they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
Or they're unsure if they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And that's when I took your advice and went with a flat fee brokerage here in town. That, as I said before, it was listed and had a contract on it the first day it was out.
Yeah, and that flat fee brokerage that you went with, there was someone I use the word specialization is a pretty key word in our business, and finding people that specialize in certain things. Like I like attorneys that specialize in, say, like if I'm putting together a private type placement thing for some partners, like I'd like an attorney who specializes in SEC law, or if I'm hiring a new subcontractor, like I want to know what their expertise is. Like I get some guys who are like handyman, jack of all trades. I'm like, no, I want a painter who focuses on paint because he's going to give me a better paint job. I want a plumber that specializes and focuses just on plumbing, not plumbing and sheetrock or something else. So specialization. And so that company had some different outlets where they put your marketing, directed your listing to some different markets. And yeah, I remember you listed with them, and within a couple of days you had multiple showings.
Yes.
Did you get multiple offers? I know that you discussed like possibly having offers, but I know you got the one solid offer within a couple of days.
Yeah, I got one offer the first day. That's the one that ended up buying the house. The other offer, they didn't give me a dollar number on it. They just said, we have a backup offer for you in case your first deal goes through, falls through. And then
it was a full price, almost a full price offer, and then you negotiated it up to almost full price offer.
Well, yeah, it was almost full price. I came back and asked again for full price because I felt like I was in line with the comps, and they agreed and took. They actually went, instead of $189.9, they offered me $189, and I accepted that.
Yep.
From that point, the appraisal process, the buyer went through. The appraiser came back at $185. Now, I had originally agreed to pay the buyer $2,500 of the buyer's closing costs.
Yeah.
And when this came through, I talked to you about it, and you said, well, negotiate out that part of it.
Yep.
And and see what they'll do with it. So I accepted $185. That was their new offer on the without the $2,500 contribution to their closing cost. And they accepted that.
Loved it too.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yep.
One of the things that was really worked for me on this was that I stayed on top of the comps. I couldn't even begin to count the number of times I ran comps on this house and the neighborhood around it, and looked at it from every corner, every way I could, and we actually saw the comps go up during that 7-8 weeks. The first 7 or 8 weeks I had the house, and then last couple of weeks they even went up even more, and that really affected the amount that I listed the house for.
Yeah.
I originally had thought that it would be listed somewhere about $175, and it turned out a whole lot better than that.
That happens sometimes, and that actually is something that's happened to us quite a lot in the this last year, the previous year in 2014, as you know, in a seller's market, prices are have been going up, and so like you will see some shifts and some pretty nice increases in comps, you know, just within a matter of months. I know you did what we talked about. It's like, okay, what are your comps right now? And you know, like you said, it was like 175 to 180 maybe when you bought it. But like we talked about, it's like before you list, and I learned this through, just through practice. It's like always check those comps again, even if it's just a month or two later. Check them right before you list again just to see what's happened. And in this type of market, in certain neighborhoods, or a lot of neighborhoods, like you'll see like comps slowly go up, or sometimes it go up quickly. And then in buyers markets, or other, you know, stagnant markets, prices may drop a little bit. And you just have to keep that in mind to make sure that you set your pricing correctly. But, I mean, you guys put yourself in position to where, you know, at this time in the seller's market, you did the work, found the deal, got it financed with favorable financing, structured it, and, you know, ultimately, like, you're able to price it $15,000 over what you anticipated. Now, I understand that the appraisal came in a little bit low. That also happens, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that, except what you did was negotiate the seller's concessions. Like, no, I don't think I'm going to pay that, since right. I'm conceding on the price a little bit, and you work that back into the deal. Man, just incredibly awesome. And so, yeah, and then so here we are, New Year's Day. I know that you did some repairs. We don't need to get into too many details. You did some, I think, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 in repairs for the buyer.
Right.
Per his inspection report. You know, there's schools of thought on that, whether, hey, just do that and make them happy. There's some things you can negotiate, which you did. And there's sometimes we just say, you know what, I don't think we want to do any repairs on this. We'll either, you know, take it as is if we're not just in love with the contract, or sometimes we'll say, hey, just to make it easier, to be honest, because what we want to do is get to the closing table. So what we'll do sometimes is just say, hey, how about a $1,000 concession? You guys handle the repairs after you close it, and let's just get to closing. I know that you did some repairs for them. You didn't do others. And
right.
Long story short, buyer was a good buyer. We vetted the buyer, made sure that he was and you did something because you had some nervousness with his pre-approval letter, and you used a tactic that I've used before, which is go to the mortgage broker, go to his lender, and just have a conversation, and just
That's exactly what I
ask
did.
about your concerns. And you did that, and you came with the call feeling, no, I think this guy's legitimate, and you felt good about him closing on the deal, which he ended up doing.
I think it went a long ways to make me feel better, and I think it might have even helped him out, because now the lender his lender has talked to me, seller, and knows that I'm for real and that I'm concerned enough to make a phone call to him. And again, that was your recommendation, and I hadn't thought of that at the time.
Yeah.
It didn't even occur to me to call the lender, but it worked out well. Worked out very well.
Yeah, well, that's one that yours truly learned from the School of Hard Knocks by not verifying the credit worthiness of a potential buyer to find out if they could really close on a deal. And I learned that lesson on my very first flip deal, where I didn't even think to try to verify whether or not that buyer could close. And lo and behold, that buyer could not close. So now that's something that I do look at. So when I tell people, like, some people will sometimes want to celebrate a little prematurely, like, oh, we sold the house, we got a contract. No, that's not selling the house. That's like the equivalent of getting like to the 10-yard line and, start celebrating. The guy comes and knocks the ball out of your hand, like it happened to Leon Lett in the 1992 Super Bowl, I think it was, whenever it was.
We remember that.
Yeah, so that's like, no, like you don't start celebrating, you don't start focusing on the dollars just yet. You keep your head in the game until you get it past the end zone, which is once you close it, was what you did today. And so you verify those buyers, make sure that they can close, take care of repair issues and inspection report issues, which, like we discussed, may be repairing some things, may be negotiating some things, and getting this thing to the closing table. And so here we are, December 31st, a few months after you bought the deal. You went through all the steps. Debbie, too, Debbie hasn't been very active in the conversation, but I know she's there. I know she's been there by your side, helping out along the way.
Yeah, so it couldn't have happened without her.
Yeah, you guys are a team, and I know she was there, even though you and I did most of the talking, but I know she was there. So tell me, we're here today, purchase price 102, repairs around 45, and if I use my handy-dandy calculator here, I think that brings us to roughly a gross profit of in the low 40s, but I know that you had to pay the realtor's commission to the buyer's agent. You had to pay taxes, some other costs, but at the end of the day, I think you're walking away with, is it in the mid-30s, $34,000, $35,000 profit?
I'm going to say 30. Once we pay, pay out, in other words, on paper, pay out all the expenses. We're looking at almost even $30,000.
$30,000, as we do down on the beach. It may not translate in the phone, but we do a little two-clap, boom. That is incredible, guys.
Not a bad payday, I'll tell you. And it's really an experience going through it, and I think that it could become addictive.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's why Vegas is so popular.
There's so many facets to flipping, it's like you had already alluded to. It's too much to. It's too much to teach in one session or too much to learn in one session. You have to learn it as everything you can and then just go through it.
Yeah, and so like I like to use the Vegas analogy, except the tables, everything's in your favor, and that's the only difference. But so I like to say flipping house is a little bit like Vegas mixed with Wall Street. Meaning because there are some unknown risks when you get into flipping. There's some unknown risk, and there's some definitely some market changes and things that we can't absolutely predict. So there's always those little possibilities, which to me creates excitement. It creates that rush, that adrenaline dump. But there's so many moving parts and so many facets that it's absolutely addictive. But why I say like the tables are turned in our favor is because if you go through the 7 fundamentals with common sense and good judgment, the cards, the table, everything is in our favor. Everything is in our favor. And I'm not a big gambler guy, so I don't have a lot of poker and gambling analogy that I can throw in here. But why it's in our favor is because if you really think about it, what our business model is we go into neighborhoods and we buy homes at highly discounted prices, okay? Usually we buy them around 50% of what they're actually going to sell for. And then we go in and fix them up, and we fix them up so they're as nice, if not nicer, than every other home in the neighborhood, and we're able to price them the same. And sometimes we even discount them a little bit less just to move them quickly. So we have a better product that is priced equal, if not better, than every other home in the neighborhood. It's an unfair advantage. It's a totally unfair advantage, and that's why that's why it's so addictive. But that's also why it's so critical to make sure that you do handle each fundamental properly, and that like you guys did, you were patient. You didn't push the envelope. You waited for the right deal to make sure that the numbers worked. You structured your financing properly, managed the rehab properly. I think you were very wise on the way that you listed the property. We talked about setting a cutoff time because you had concerns with the flat fee listing.
Yeah.
And you took my advice, and I told you, I'm like, I understand your concerns, and they were legitimate. But what I said and what we discussed was like, trust the process. We know that this process works for this price point with this flat fee. But you had a cutoff date. We're like, hey, if I don't have this house sold by this time, I'm going to hire an agent. It didn't come to that. You got the contract right away. You handled every fundamental beautifully, even the contract pays and the handling the repairs for your buyer. Here we are today, $30,000 in your bank account as a result of this deal. And I want to hear from both of you guys, just kind of just closing thoughts and emotions that you feel. Excuse me. And also just anything that you want to share with people who are in a similar situation where they're on the fence thinking about taking action, and they're either scared or nervous or just, like what do you have to share with them on kind of like their strengthen their mindset and their motivation to take action, what you guys have learned?
I've always I've done a lot of reading and study and research on really what success is and what it takes to be what is success in all the areas of your life. And I know that for sure that helping other people is probably the most direct way to any sort of success as far as I'm concerned. Help as many people as you possibly can. And this is my way of doing that. This is the way, when I start thinking and you start looking at the number of people that you affect and touch in a process like we just went through, we helped and actually interacted with and touched our contractors, all of the contractors that worked on our house, the title company and their staff, their people, the realtor, the buyer's realtor, the buyer himself.
We actually had someone in the neighborhood come by and just wanted to see the inside of the house. Wasn't going to buy it or anything, but just wanted to see the inside of the house and said, thank you so much for doing such a good job so that we can get someone really, a nice family in this house. Because obviously the last people that were there did not take care of the house. It was just in shams and everything.
That house needed a big hug.
So it did, and we gave it a big hug. But, it's one of those things where it makes you feel good that you take something that I tell Keith all the time, we take crappy and make happy. Because it's like, that people appreciate that, and we've given someone a nice home to live in.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's by the time you start thinking of all the people you touch and that you affect by going through this, it's pretty mind-staggering. You touch people you don't even know, you'll never see, you'll never know, but you made a difference to them, and you just to me you just keep doing it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But that's probably the best part of it to me.
So that's something that I have a real deep connection with what you guys just said, and something that I share on occasion with some different students. Like whenever, we call it playing small. So a lot of times in life, we will back down from, a voice, a calling, a desire in our heart to go out and do certain things. Mainly I'm talking about business right now. because like we back down from either the fear or the doubt or the worry or concerns that we have, and we back down and we play small. But so what I had to do to myself was I had to consider, like, the more that I play small, the less that I was going to be able to help people, including myself. Because whenever we choose to go out and take action, and I'm mainly talking about like flipping houses right now, but the impact that we have when we go and flip a house, I know we go into the mindset of making money for us, for our family, and for our business. But there's so many lives that are impacted from us going out and taking action. Not only is there the end buyer, we're giving them a beautiful product at a fair price, and our products are generally so much better than our competition, than the other homes in that neighborhood and that market. And we get that all the time. Just like you had the neighbor come up, and that's a very rewarding experience. But not only that, you think about the contractors that how you're able to help out your local community in terms of jobs, labor, materials, all that kind of stuff. That's why we call it community investing, and even going a step further is thinking about your private lenders. And that was a big light bulb moment for me whenever I realized that not only were my deals more profitable and could I do more deals and ultimately an unlimited amount of deals with private money, that was the borrowing and utilizing private money was a huge way to help and give back, because private investors, there's lenders in our local community that, 2008 and 2009, during that time frame, they were just absolutely getting hammered in the stock market, just losing tons and tons and tons of money, losing their wealth every single day, didn't know where to go, didn't know where to turn. So I was going out and making a lot of money with real estate. And that's where the light bulb went on for me, was like, not only can I improve my business, but I can help other lenders grow their retirement with them investing with me in my deals, and therefore I can hire more contractors, buy more materials, renew more neighborhoods, and it's just a compound effect that goes and goes and goes and goes and goes on. And people, that's why I always tell people in terms of like private lenders, for example, I'm like, you don't need to go out and get 10 or 20 lenders in the beginning. If you just start with one lender and you take care of that lender, guess what? When you close on that deal and you sell it and they get wired their money back, guess what they want to do? They want to loan it right back to you, and then they want to call other people and tell others how great you are, and it just continues to grow. And so does not only your business and your profits, but your service back to your community. And it's absolutely true what you guys said, and it's beautiful, and it's another aspect of the business that excites me.
Yeah, you're talking about private lenders. The private lenders that we used on this absolutely want to do it again. And
yep.
Another thing happened over the Christmas holidays. My brother, I have an older brother. He was here from Nevada, upstate Nevada, and he essentially there was a lot of conversation. I showed him the house and showed him what we had done with it, and his mouth just hung open because he's been studying. He's retired now. He's studying. He's taking a course on stock market, and he described it to me. I said, "That sounds a whole lot like a job. You got to study this and watch it, analyze it every single day."
Yeah.
After I explained to him what we were doing, and without any ulterior motive in mind, just showing him what we had done, he said, "Well, you call me next house you get. If you need some funds, I'll have you a check in the mail."
Yeah.
Because he said, "There's no way I can match that kind of return doing the stock market." He said, "The best I can do is probably break even."
Yep.
And he's no dummy. He's a lot smarter than I am. So I believe him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
So I picked up another private lender without even trying, just by showing them what we do.
I'm telling you, it's the private money banana tree. Those little annoying banana trees that you can never get rid of. They keep growing. If you cut them down, they keep growing back up and sprouting up.
Like bamboo.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, like the bamboo things. I call them banana trees, but
yeah.
they're probably bamboo trees. You cut it down, the thing's going to come back. So that happened with my private lenders. You know, I was closing deals, and then I had a private lender a month or so later, called me, and she was somewhat angry because she wanted to know when I was going to borrow her money again. And then she had ended up telling some other people, and it continued to grow. And so, you know, so people always ask, you know, they're worried about getting money for their deals, and I'm like, don't worry about that. You worry about finding good deals and just being a trustworthy person, because money is attracted. It's the law of money. Money is attracted to good deals and trustworthy people. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. The money is the easiest part of this whole equation. Well, guys, I am deeply, deeply honored for the opportunity to work with you guys. I'm humbled when people, reach out to me to help them, and the same is true for you guys. I am absolutely, from the bottom of my heart, proud of you guys, and just have so much love and respect for you guys, and I'm incredibly proud, and I think the timing of it all is just surreal. It's New Year's Eve now, and I'm actually still sitting in my truck, and I'm about to go inside and hang out with my family, and I got a bunch of fireworks. We're going to pop fireworks in the new year with the bang, and this conversation and you guys doing what you did, just like I have goosebumps now, and I'm just overwhelmed, and my soul is I'm so incredibly proud and touched by you guys.
Thank you very much.
What you guys have just done.
And
so thank you.
Well, thank you.
We couldn't have done it without you, Brant.
Well, I don't know. You guys are pretty awesome. You just went out and took action. And
it's a joint exercise. You know, we don't do any of this by ourselves.
Well, guys, once again, thank you for taking the time and sharing with everyone else. And I love you guys. I'm proud of you, and I want y'all to have a wonderful, wonderful evening tonight. And I want to do some more calls like this on some of your flips next year. All right?
Okay. Well,
this is
like
only
I
the
said,
beginning.
We're looking for the next one right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's make it happen.
We will.
Happy New Year to you and your family.
All right, guys. Well, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.